little. It's kind of like a constant little grind up, you know. So that's what it's all about. Just putting out good quality content, as you know, you know. Mind me asking a question like, what's giving you the 18-ish potential target? Cool, man. Awesome. Yeah, I could see that too. It'd be interesting to see into the end of December how much tax loss selling Bitcoin attracts. You know, that's more of a stock market thing, but because crypto hasn't
Okay.
been around, but it still does apply to crypto as well. So, you know, do people have, you know, gains that they took earlier in the year or whatnot, and they don't want to pay the taxes, so they sell some Bitcoin or some other cryptos into year end to kind of offset those tax gains with some tax losses. But yeah, interesting, man. I definitely some interesting stuff coming into year end. So for me, I'm kind of in the same camp as you, at least, you know, and again, we use different things, which I think is one of the coolest things about it is that, you know, it shows that there's multiple ways. And when you see the same signal, like, or the same directional move, that's always the most powerful, right? So for me, just looking at the daily chart, this is a very crisp bull flag. And again, bull flags, you should see some sort of move up. I think the first big resistance for me is this June low, which is around 17.6. So if we get to 17.6, you could see some pressure there. But I think it actually could get through, at least in the near term, and kind of
Okay.
test these lows right under here, maybe around that 18.4 level, which kind of coincides with your 18-ish area as well.
Yeah.
So I think that would be kind of my upside. I'm in the camp where, yeah, I think come January again, we probably do see some more pressure. You know, everything to me doesn't stink like a bottom, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have those same characteristics. You don't have the panic jump out a window type Bitcoin's never going to survive and all that stuff. And that's notoriously what bottoms are. They make you think it's the end of the world, essentially. So the question is, how low will it go? I mean, you know, again, I compared, I've been comparing recently the Lehman Brothers collapse in '08 with the FTX collapse and kind of the similarities there. And then how long did the S&P take to bottom out after that? And then how much lower did the S&P go? And the S&P went about 40 to 45% lower. It took about 5 to 6 months. So if that's true, then you're talking like a Mayish potential bottom in Bitcoin. And again,
Mm-hmm.
if the percentages are aligned, and again, there's no guarantees they will be, but
Mm-hmm.
it would be somewhere around that 9,000 level. And the reason why it's kind of interesting around 9,000 is that it would break the 10, which would freak out a lot of people. You know, like if you're looking for where stops are, they're going to be at 10, they're going to be right below 10. And then you get back into that sub 10 level on Bitcoin. And I could see people getting really bearish. Like that would be kind of
Yeah.
like breaking the camel's back in a way. So yeah, I mean, I think that's one interesting possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I think we're close to the lows. I think this is the final kind of over the next few months. It'll be like the final leg down. But then hopefully we do put in a bottom finally, and Bitcoin can actually start an uptrend again. Very little Bitcoin trades. Overall, very little crypto trading. Just because
Okay.
for me, it's there's just not a ton of volatility. Like even if you go back to June, it's, you know, I mean, this is for Bitcoin. This is not a lot of volatility. Like something like this bull flag would be tradable. You know, you just basically look, if it fails, you exit. But like you could pop up. But again, the upside is kind of on the limited side. Like even if it goes to 18-ish or a little above 18, it's not that big of a move for the risk that you wake up one morning and there's another FTX scenario with another player out there. And that
Yeah.
makes me a little nervous about, you know, putting up any sort of sizable moves. That's awesome. You guys have been trading it. I think that's fantastic. You know, one of the trades that I did not too long ago was near NEAR, which is this one. And this one, we're in from about 45 cents or so. And the idea here was that it was an oversold condition. You had a beautiful little bottoming tail right here. So basically just playing that bottoming tail, and it's floated up. I mean, we're up like, you know, 15, 20% at this point, nothing crazy. But
Wow.
you know, little trades like that I'll do, but they're really small. Like I'm not confident enough in this market to go long heavily. Definitely on the smaller side. So one of the things that's interesting to me is like you have Solana, right? And we know that FTX supposedly has a ton of Solana, but I am kind of keeping an eye on it because
All
it
right.
hasn't, like everyone was proclaiming doom and gloom for this like a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and so far it hasn't, and it's making kind of this bullish. I'd be curious what your market cipher says about this, because you got a little bull flag here, and if it doesn't fail and it actually survives, you could see a rip roaring short squeeze in something like that.
Yeah.
Avalanche again, you can see Avalanche kind of hit here, and then it kind of did get above this. So as long as it holds, I would say Avalanche needs to hold like 1330. I'd want to see price stay above that and then kind of go sideways and then potentially have another leg up. Upside could be back to this kind of low area around just under 15. What's kind of crazy is that, you know, all these targets, like even Bitcoin at to 18,000, it's such a historically, it's such a small move percentage wise. Like, remember in the olden days where it's like, oh, Bitcoin just ran 30% in 2 days. Now we're like, oh, Bitcoin might go up 5% in a few days. Oh, dude, in a bear market, 3% is awesome. You know, I think that's what people need to hear too, is like, you know, a lot of retail crowd, they're like, oh, you know, you didn't get 20% on that trade. And it's like, dude, you got to adapt to the market conditions. And right now, if you're going long, you're not looking for 20% because you'll end up losing money because it'll go up 3 or 5 and then go down 10. Right. So 100%, 3% is fantastic in this environment.
That
Not so much. I mean, there's some coins that are now kind of creeping into the top 20 or so that honestly I don't even have a good grasp on. I was looking at, you know, and again, I don't know how much you know about some of these coins, but you know, there's some ones that have had decent moves. I certainly am not someone who's looking at Dogecoin or SHIB. You know, there's a lot of people thinking that, you know, Twitter is going to be adopt Dogecoin as their official thing. I don't know if he's going to do that. If Musk will end up doing that, but yeah, man, I mean, it's certainly worth keeping an eye on. Do you know anything about some of these other coins? And again, this is from someone who knows nothing, but like I was looking at way, like, you know, for me, I'm a chart guy. So it's if it has a chart, I can look at it, but I want charts of cryptos that really can't be manipulated too much. And then once you get down on the list, you start getting into the pump of dumps and some different stuff like that. So it just makes it harder to kind of trust the analysis. But I think one of the greatest things about like a Bitcoin is, you know, if you're in a country where the inflation is out of control, they at least, you know, if you're in Venezuela or some of these other countries, you have a way to kind of cushion yourself, right, from that, those, you know, 100% inflation type things. And that's also a nice positive. It's a universal, you know, currency, and it's a store of safety in crazy times. Laid out beautifully. These were the lines I had in the chart. So you could see you had this dip, then you had the high, then you pulled back, and then we broke out. And then what I always preach is that when you break out of a level, oftentimes there's this necessity to check back. It's almost like a kid that leaves the home, but they always come back for Thanksgiving, right? Because they miss their family, they're used to being home. And so this chart broke out, and then it comes right there before it makes its next move. And then where does it stop? At that next pivot point right down here or right up there. And now it's pulling back again. So yeah, it's just kind of cool to see how, you know, the technicals show up on the charts and actually do kind of guide you. They're not going to give you 100%, you know, probabilities, but they give you probabilities that favor your trading. And, you know, I'm in the camp that the Fed, again, is probably, you know, overdone it on the rate hike side and will probably pay the price with an economic slowdown, recession, maybe worse. And I think gold probably continues to be a good performer in 2023. And again, I think actually Bitcoin, if it bottoms in 2023, by the end of 2023, maybe it's starting to recover. I don't think we're going to hit all-time highs on Bitcoin for years to come. It's going to take some time, but I do think eventually we will. But gold for me, kind of the low risk play that can cushion you from some inflation aspects and some craziness. So I am absolutely in the camp that I think that at some point, either in 2023 or 2024, maybe 2023, you're going to see a flip where Bitcoin has been considered a risk asset. It goes down with the stock market. I actually think Bitcoin will bottom out and start heading up while the stock market makes another leg down. And I think the key to that, and this is the key, guys, is that once you get that transparency of regulation in the space, you're going to see in big institutions saying, okay, listen, the economy is falling into a worse and worse recession, which is not good for stocks, right? Stocks rely on earnings. If earnings are going down, those valuations have to decline. And so then the question is, well, where do they put their money? Well, right now, there's no one going near crypto in the institutional game. It's too risky. FTX just crushed any hope of anyone coming in prior to regulation. But you get regulation, you get transparency, you get rules where they have to get audited, they have to do whatever. Now institutions are going to say, okay, well, I have to put my money. Remember, institutions feel this need to always deploy capital versus just letting it sit there. A lot of investors, they want returns. Doesn't matter if it's a bear market, they still want returns. And so then there's going to be this pressure to deploy. And my hope is that that's the trigger for kind of this inverse relationship where stocks can go down and crypto can actually rally.